There we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Vagabond Dog Industry Chats. This week, we've got our friend Leene on coming to us live from Spelkollektivet in Sweden.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. For those of you who remember, a couple of weeks ago, we had a wonderful man named Oak on the show who worked on Death in Texas, and now we have you. I guess mother of the game, creator of the game.
Yeah.
This was your project. And for those of you who don't remember, Death in Texas is a game where you play um, a grim reaper of sorts, a spiritual entity in a very bureaucratic environment where you sort of have to weigh judgment slash get the paperwork done on deciding who lives and dies in the mortal realm. It is a very interesting uh, decision making process that you have to go through each time, because you have on one hand the requisites from your boss that say make sure this sort of person dies today, but then you have some options within the sets of people you get. Puts you to task at analyzing lives with very limited information, and sort of passing judgment on them. So welcome to the show, and please, if you've got a better explanation for the game than that, we'd love to hear it.
So, no, I mean, it's a quite good explanation because I went to some cons and I talked about this game like for hundreds and hundreds of times. Then I actually got a very good elevator pitch about it, and it is
It's
kind of,
super important to have a good elevator
yeah,
pitch.
it's like you are the Grim Reaper on an office job. It's kind of like Papers, Please, but you choose who lives, who dies, and that's it. Yeah.
Right. So now I want to know, like, from the outset, like, how did the concept start for you, and what
Mhm.
made you decide that it was like, what was the moment or like sort of thought that brought you to like, oh, okay, this is a game I actually really want to pursue full
Yeah.
development for.
Yeah, I really wanted to make my own project. So this is my own big like first project that I made. And how I came up with the idea, actually, I really like these kind of story-based games where choices matter, and I was really set on making a game where choices actually matter. And yeah, so it was super important to me also to make something that I really feel deeply about, like a topic. And Grim Reapers are like very important for me actually because I'm really into death positivity.
Okay.
Uh, Getting deep right away, like my mother died when I was 10, so I had like this experience where people didn't talk to me about it at all, and it's normal like in Western society that
Mm-hmm.
people don't talk much about death, or like you don't have a place to think about it. So where I actually got some information or got a place to actually think about these topics is media and Grim Reapers. It was like, for example, Terry Pratchett's Grim Reaper in the books, or even cartoons like Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and these kinds of things. And yeah, because of it, I think it's super important to talk more about death, and especially in games, because games will make you think. And it's a perfect opportunity to try to make people think about this. I have also learned that it's super important in death positivity to actually talk about death in whatever form. For example, it could be jokes, like dark humor, or whatever form it is. So, because I was really set on this theme, set on the Grim Reaper thing, and I just thought, hey, the like mechanics of Papers, Please could actually really well work for this because it's gonna still be different because you don't have like a time limit and all of that, but just I like to call the genre Tinder-like, where you have dual options.
Right, right, right.
So it's a Tinder-like game, and yeah, this is how I came up with the idea actually.
It's very interesting to start exploring death positivity through games, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about like most games have players dying over and over and over again, and some games really relish those opportunities and provide
Mhm.
it to be a fun experience. um, a lot of games, don't. It can be a frustrating experience, but you're right, I do think there is a lot more exploration of the feelings of the emotion around death, at least at its like root initial reactions, than in a lot of other media. I find like
Mm.
books. I'm reading one right now that's about a dying parent that's very very frustrating, like very sentimental, and it's like very heavy, and it doesn't have
Mhm.
the sort of levity that I think games kind of have to provide by their trial and fail nature. But I also find it very interesting that you set out to make a game about choices and about death, but without approaching, when most people I hear them say that, they usually mean, oh, I want to make a telltale game where I have this story and I have these characters and these branches, and you control this character and their choices. And I feel like Death and Taxes has more of a like a god game kind of like overseer sort of feel to it, where yes, there is a narrative and things are happening in the world, but it's not like in your face. It's really something like you have to dive into the details of the characters and the news alerts and paying attention to things in order to like hear the story of the world. So with that in mind, how do you start to make a game about choices before you start to make a game about a story affected by choices?
Hmm. Uh, so yeah, the thing of Death and Taxes, it's like very impersonal.
Mm-hmm.
So you are so away from these people. These people might be just like numbers for you. And this is where your own like experiences actually come in. Because the game gives you so much freedom, then what basically the game happens inside of your brain.
You're right.
And the game can be very different for a lot of different people, and we let like a lot of the game design actually is super open for this game. Some people are not used to it, and we also wanted to like make it in a way that you are obeying the rules of the game, but also the game always like tells you, but maybe you could play a game in another way. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're not just collecting points. Like the points get a bit like the money in the game. Like it loses its value basically, and you will slowly. It will slowly basically force you out of the routine of just following the rules, because the rules get more like less strict as well. So it was really important for us to design the game so it's not like a usual game where you just have your task and then you have to follow it. You can, but it questions like slowly if you should. I think more people like who are not used to playing that many games aren't always like going by the rules right away, but the people who are used to playing a lot of games, they might follow the rules more in this game as well. I don't know if it answered the question in any way, but yeah.
It's
Uh,
very interesting to hear you say this, because like the that's something I recently explored with design as well, is the like there I haven't I've played through Death and Taxes. I haven't explored every possible avenue. There's a lot of choices through the game to make. But it feels very much like there's no real fail state. It's
mhm,
not like I can lose the game because I make certain choices so much. And that's actually, it's very interesting, because to have a game about death that avoids the you died screen or like the game over screen is kind of a revelation. And I'm curious, like I really like um player giving players the right of refusal in my game, where it's like, okay, yes, here's the out, here's the task, this is what we tell you this is about and what you're supposed to do, but giving the player the freedom to say no thanks, I'm gonna not do that, or I'm gonna do something else, or I'm going to defy it, is kind of like where the heart of player agency lives for me. um, did you find it difficult to keep that level of freedom available in your game?
Yeah, we sometimes were like questioning if we should do it. Is it fun? Like, because the free player could just go through the profiles and be like unengaged
Mm-hmm.
and just go on without like even like just click on and nothing happens to them. Actually, there is a fail state, but you would have to try it really hard. You would just have to like either kill or save everybody all the time, and
Right.
then you like then you actually get fired in the game as well. But other than that, it's yeah, we like set how we wanted to have it, and we were kind of lucky that it worked out. We didn't test this part of the game too much, and we just went along with this. I would say that game design in this game is actually one of the weakest points. It's more about the story and all of the, I don't know, music and art and all of that. So I think we could have done some things better in the game design as well to also gamify it even a bit more. But I still like it how it came out like this as well, where the actual gameplay is like super simple, and we didn't want to like touch it too much and just keep the you make a dual choice and there's like not much else to it. So yeah.
Right. Now, the one thing I've noticed when I've given players the freedom to decline, or like yours, I can just follow the directions I'm given every single day,
Mhm.
and the game does, it's not as engaging as if you experiment or you make your own moral choices. If you just follow the rules, it does get a little more dull than if you defied. So, given, like, we had a hard time getting players to understand that, like, things are in their hands. It's you're self-directed. Your experience is self-directed by the way you're choosing to play it. But that's not something you can like communicate super easily. So I'm curious how you approach that problem.
Yeah, actually, I felt during what we did, I think we all felt in the team that we were being super obvious. So there is the voice in the mirror that's telling different things how you could do them. There is fate who is calling you out and telling you like what to do. And there are like different tricks in the like actual tests and the daily tasks, and also there are like the because the daily tasks get more absurd all the time as well, then you start questioning it. Like you just I feel like we gave the players so many places to question things, and there are still a few players who don't do that. It's not like it's just a few ones, but I would say most of people still like start questioning things and doing things differently and all of that. Or if they want to play, just I'll try this time. I'll follow the rules next time. So I will do something else. So we made it super obvious, and we were like, oh, you can't miss this now. Like all the characters are like kind of teasing you, like, oh, why are you doing this? Maybe you should do that or something like that. So yeah.
Right. It's tough because, like, on one hand, you want to let the player, you don't want the player not to discover it, right? You want the player
Yeah.
to discover the variance, but you also don't want to have like a character show up and be like, hey, you should do this, because then you're just creating a second binary for them. Um, do you find that it's a sort of player, or like did you that follows the rules more than others, or did you find that like it was an even spread in your game, or did your game attract a certain type of player? Because that's something I really want to get into figuring out, is how to make sure that you're attracting the right player. That's a whole nother game step to take, to make sure that you've got the right kind of player for your experience that's naturally inquisitive or whatever. But yeah, did you learn anything about your players that helped you know, at least your post launch feelings about how you courted them in the game?
Yeah, it was interesting because for me, actually, this game is very much designed for me as well. This is
Mm-hmm.
the easiest way to do it, I would say. So I am the target market. I know kind of what I like. So I pushed into the game a lot of stuff that I like. And I feel like we actually attracted a lot of similar people just because of that. We really pushed forward to the Halloween theme, having a lot of like alternative things in it, being like very colorful but still like very dark thingy in the same time. And putting a lot of like different like characters in it that could like attract these kinds of people. And basically, yeah, because I was making this game for myself and I had it in my mind that these are the things that I like. And I know there's a lot of more people who like this. Actually, why another reason why I wanted to make this game was I was always going on Steam just looking for the game I really want to play. And a lot of times I didn't find it. Now it's a bit better, I would say. Every year it has been like getting better. But before I was like, yeah, I like the short experiences and I play them and then they're over. I need a new one. So actually, I made something that I would love to find on Steam to play. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, that's always a good way
Mhm.
of like framing it, because you're a real person and you understand yourself, and
Yeah.
making something that you enjoy you can generally, so if you're not too weird, you can generally
Yeah.
assume that there's enough other people out there to justify it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I'm curious. So this is your first big project as a lead. What were you
Mhm.
doing before Death and Taxes?
So yeah, I feel like I haven't been in the industry for a very long time. But when I got into it 100%. So basically, I have been doing games like 6 years now, and I started from game jams.
Mm-hmm.
Then I like made a lot of them. Then I moved on to work together with a team on a VR game, and that was the time when VR made the big boom, and it was like, oh, it's the next big thing, and everybody will have a VR headset at their home, like, which didn't happen, of course. But yeah, that game was just a Tribocalypse. It was called Tribocalypse, and it was a bow and arrow kind of shooting, kind of cute Warcraft art style kind of game. So yeah, we it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot from that, even though it failed. And after that, I just took on to start making like Death and Taxes. And that was a big like project for me. And yeah, it was like cool starting my own project. I feel like I learned so much from others' mistakes before making my own mistakes. So I think this is why this game actually did super well. So from my background, I always wanted to become a artist
Mm-hmm.
from when I was like really young, and I went to study media design when I was older, and I was like, yeah, I should do something that actually brings in money, and
Right.
go to maybe advertisement and stuff. So yeah, graphic design and media design was what I was like learning. And during my studies, I found out there's a local community that does game jams, and then I went to a game jam, and I was like so hooked. I was like hooked from the first minute. I just made some assets for like art assets for a game, and it was so much fun working together with programmers. I really like programmers. They are great people. And yeah, so from that point on, I just had such a big shift in my life, and now I feel like I am living and breathing, game dev actually. So I'm living the indie game dev life where all of my friends are game devs, and most of my entertainment is like looking at game dev stuff and thinking about games, and my hobbies are games and my work is games, and it's like basically, yeah, because I'm currently in Spell Collective as well, and I lived here. Currently, I'm visiting, but I did live here for 2 years, so I was just living in a house full of game developers, and I don't know. I feel like everything about my life currently is about this, so I think it helped because I am so interested in it, and I just get so much information in even in shorter time about it that it helps actually to learn from others as well.
Yep, this is a thing that happens very frequently. the once you start game dev, it kind of takes over. I'm very curious to hear because the game jam scene you fell into was in Estonia.
Yeah, yeah,
So
totally.
I'm fascinated to hear the story about how you found your game jam groups, um, because it's not a big games industry. This sounds like a relatively rare happenstance, and I'm curious if you have any clues for other people who are in countries with smaller game industries on like how to keep their ear to the ground for gatherings.
Yeah, just being like very active in a way. So for me, it was I was studying media design in the university. It was first year, and I just I was kind of in not a very good place mentally. I was kind of depressed, and had just lost a lot of friends, and um, but I saw actually in my art university, I saw a poster on the wall that was about the game jam. And I actually just went to that event because I was like, oh yeah, I could do some computer graphics. I have always liked animation and computer graphics, so this would be nice for me. And yeah, it was a very small and cute community actually. I was so happy that there was one because it felt like a home to a lot of people who usually don't socialize, who are like very introverted and kind of weird as well. And I feel like it was I felt really at home with them. I felt more at home with them than like, for example, artists overall. So that was like super fun because you can always chat up about games, if
Mm-hmm.
you're really into games, then that's you can just fall back to it and talk about it, and people will be super super interested, and that was very nice. Um, so yeah, I just started doing game jams, and I started going to all of the game jams, and I got kind of I started like competing a lot. So I was like, I'm gonna get the local first place and this. And so I was taking it super seriously, trying to put together like the best teams right away. Then putting all the time in the game jam. And really, the biggest thing I learned from the game jams was that it's super important to put into the game only the things that people see.
Mm-hmm.
The the things that people get experience out of or understand. So it was such a good thing because you have to make like in short time make a game that will be like everything you put in there and the player can't understand it, you're wasting the time because it's not really in the game because the experiences are usually very short and everything the player can see, you have to have in it. And when I learned that, then yeah, I started to, oh yeah, I was winning a lot of the competitions and I was like putting the diplomas on my wall and being like super proud of that. Yay. And so yeah, there were some cool people who were working on the Tripocalypse game, and I was like, "Take me with your team," and they were like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I started doing like 2D stuff for the game. I was doing like texturing, and I was doing UI a bit as well, and it was a lot of fun, and I like learned a lot watching them, and also like in the evenings every day I was just watching a lot of video game industry talks, so, because I knew everything from my school already about. I was lucky that way as well that we actually were learning so much about either from like script writing to like audio design and like montage, video montage and UI design and web design and graphic design and like psychology of like advertising and all of these things. And I was like, they never mentioned any games in the studies actually, but I started seeing that you could apply each and every
Right.
one of these things to game development and everything else like game design and like actual market knowledge I got from watching a lot of videos.
Right. There's like when I was going through school, long time ago, we didn't there weren't really like game design programs yet or anything like that. There were comp sci programs if you wanted to like learn generally how to program, but
Yeah.
it was always like tangential skills that are going to be good for game dev. Um, Not that I was even thinking I was going to be making games when I went to school, but I'm curious. But so before you started game jamming, like what was your experience with games? Did you approach game design purely as an artistic interest?
I had always loved games because I had like an older sister and brother, and they were playing games, so I got into games really early as
Mm-hmm.
well. A lot of people didn't have a computer in the a small place that we were living in, but we did because my father is an architect and he needed to have a computer. He needed to have new computers, so the children actually got their own like the
Right.
older computer, and we got like some games for it, and it was like great. So that was a lot of my childhood as well. So I always loved making like comics, and I was like in paint. I was
Mm-hmm.
drawing comics, and I was even actually drawing like some games even back then. But I did stop doing all of this for a long time. And I still was thinking of, oh yeah, maybe I'll do some like animation or graphic design or something like that. I remember I saw like I was quite small and Pixar was a new thing, and I saw that, oh yeah, there's some cool people working in Pixar doing these things. So I was like, oh yeah, when I get like bigger I will go and work in Pixar. So I thought about animation or art overall, but I never thought actually of making games because that was I didn't know you could like make games for some reason. It
Right. They
was
just
not
appear.
brought into my mind. Yeah, yeah. I was like, why would? Yeah, didn't think about it. I really loved games, but I wasn't like, yeah. I started thinking about it after I found out that I actually don't want to work in the like advertisement industry or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, and I should actually do games. And when I started making the game jam games, then very many times I actually was the one who was responsible of leading the team, and I had like good game design ideas as well. So I was like, wow, this is so much fun. Yeah, I was quite proud of the game design ideas that came to me. So I feel like this part kind of came really easy to me, and I found out that it really fits me actually. Yeah, uh, making comics is a bit similar in some ways, uh, because you have to actually with pictures, like non-moving pictures, give some thought, like basically for just communicate with pictures, and the person can be has to like understand this very well. So I feel like background in comics is also a very good entry point to actually get into yeah, games as well.
Right. Now you touched a little bit on it, but there's quite a big skill difference between being a good artistic lead and being a good project lead on a whole game. What were some of the hardest skills for you to learn going into project management? And what did you find came naturally, and what do you think is super important for
Yeah,
leading a game to shipping, which is really hard to do?
yeah. I feel like empathy is a very strong thing that you need in a lot of things in game industry. Uh, if you like empathy for game design, where you can empathize with the player, empathy for marketing, you can like empathize with the consumer, empathy with your team members. So you can like empathize how what they want, and yeah, it's leading is hard for me. I feel like I'm not like I am this kind of person that does it when somebody else doesn't do it.
Right.
Like in school projects as well. Like I feel like nobody's doing it. I guess I have to do it, and then I'll do it. But it does take a lot of like energy for me actually. So I don't feel like I'm like a natural leader.
Do you feel
But
bad when there's like a lack of structure?
yes, yeah, I do. So that helps actually. But what I found out is super important is, yeah, like I said, empathy for your team members. So with death and taxes, for example, uh, because we didn't have any money, we did this on revenue share. Then it was super important to find out why people actually want to do this. So why would they join the team if they don't get like money right away
Mm-hmm.
from it? So listening to each and every person, what they actually need and what they want, it's very it could be so many things. They could want to learn, they could want to get some like experiences, they would want to just get better at what they personally do, or they just want to have done some projects, or they want to do something together with other people, or they want to do art, or they want to do this because of some moral reason. So if you learn that about the human or a teammate, then you can actually provide this to them. So if you feel like your team can provide this to what they actually want from life, kind of, then it's gonna make everything so much easier because you are just doing the best to provide them what they need so they can provide you what they can give basically. So just having this as the first thing actually when you start up a team, to ask people like why do they actually want to do that, and then it like runs so much easier. Well, and I also like it was very simple for us as well because we had everybody self-manage themselves kind
Mm-hmm.
of. we had it very loose. So people, however they want to work, we let them work that way, basically, and however much they wanted to work. And I mean, we were lucky that it worked out for us, because we had a strong vision for the game as well. So if everybody knows what you are making and you give them creative freedom, then you just can make it happen. I was like most of the person that was also, if somebody said like, oh, I like to draw these kinds of things, I want to put it in the like, want to make this, then I'll be like, okay, I'll make it work in somehow. So that was the art direction part, I would say, that I was incorporating people's personal handwriting into the game. And it was so much easier because we had one person for each thing. One concept artist, one like lead writer, one musician, like so it was their own handwriting and their own way of doing things went into the project, and that really worked out, and we are gonna try to continue on that and not make the teams too big where you would have to force people like on the certain style, basically.
Right. It's very interesting to hear you were able to pull together such a large team relative to many indie games, for your first project entirely on RevShare. That's not
Yeah.
that that speaks a lot to, I guess, some personal quality in you. Um, that can you tell us a little bit about that process, because it's
Yeah.
something a lot of young devs really struggle with, pulling together a team when you've got no money, and
Hmm.
you did a pretty big job with
Yeah.
that.
I am so thankful that people trusted in me in this. I think why this happened, there was a few things that helped a lot. The first thing was that I actually fell in love with the project from the first moment it came to me. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, whatever happens, whatever I have to do, I will finish this project alone with or with other people. So that was also what I was giving out. Like, whatever happens, this game will come out. Like, just believe me, like I am doing this. This is so important to me. And this is like, yeah, like you said, it was basically like my baby, the project. So I was so like into it. And I think people also saw that. The second thing was that the first person that I started working together with was the person I worked together with on Tripocalypse as well.
Right.
And he is a great concept artist. And he was just drawing a lot of things. And I was like talking to him about the world, and I am so lucky that I found him. It's and he actually just did so much concept art. He's a person who just draws and draws and draws. And if you don't give him like anything to draw, he will just draw something else. And for him it was just totally fine to just, even without any promise of when the game will come out or anything like that, he drew so many good-looking concept arts that a lot of people really liked it when I got to show them. So basically, when I talked about the game, I was like, "Oh yeah, the game idea," but I got a lot of pictures of the world as well,
Right.
and those told such a good story already. So that was the second thing I would say that really helped to find everybody else that we needed for the actual, yeah,
Right.
actual team. Yeah.
Art is pretty crucial in that pitching process. It's really tough. I find it's easier for art-led projects to get off the ground than programming-led projects, just because you have that visual component. You can like show somebody and it makes sense
Yeah.
immediately. Um, that's really
But
really
the
cool.
hardest thing actually was that like I don't know much about programming. I
Mm-hmm.
know a little, but not enough to actually make this game or something like that. So I tried to get programmers on board. That was the hardest point. So I was super happy that I actually found Oak as well. He helped this project so much. And yeah, because we started dating before he actually joined the team. So yeah, he then joined the team and he was able to take on the like technological part, and now it works so well together because I am doing all of the art and the lead half of the leading basically, and he's doing the tech and half of the leading. So because putting together like uh yeah, what we can both do, it made such a good team as well. And like I said before, I tried to put together the best teams on game jams as well, and having like a good team where everybody loves what they do and does their own thing the best is very good thing. And you also have to work with that. So the game project can be molded depending on what your team can actually do, so what they are best at. For example, like I really love doing 2D art, no, like I don't do 3D art at all. So this is the reason why the game is 2D, for
Right.
example. And yeah, a lot of these like just play to your team's strengths as well. It's important, yeah.
Now, Oak mentioned a little bit, and we talked a little bit before the show about you guys have started on a new project. Or have you kept the
Mhm.
whole team together, or has there been any additions?
Yeah, because we have taken a lot of time with this. Some members have been moving on already. Me and Oak are, yeah, we are making this game. We also have the same concept artist making all the cool concepts again. We have a lot of them. It's great. Uh, and we will have the same composer as well. We are going to look for new writers, and we did already get a new like a programmer for Death and Taxes. Oak programmed it all by himself while doing everything else as
Mhm.
well. So we learned from that, like, don't have only one programmer, have more programmers if you have this kind of a project. So yeah, we got a new pixel artist, and I'm doing like half of it, and yeah, and then yeah, we have a new programmer as well. So there are some new people, there are some old people still left in the team, and in time we are gonna see if the writer is gonna come back as well from his current project, or we need to find some new writers as well.
Right, that's tough. But I mean, man, it sounds like it's shaping up to be a really cool project. Um, what I mean, so you've the one thing I was noticing about your history through games is going through from game jam newbie experience to a I assume a relatively large production in a VR game, back down to a relatively tight 2D indie game, and now we're starting to scale up again. You've kind of seen game industry at a variety of different scales. Um, do you feel like you're still sort of feeling out the where you like to be, or have you found that like happy spot, or is there sort of certain style of environment that you prefer to be in now?
Totally feel like there is like a balance in there.
Mm-hmm.
I am hearing from others as well. The VR game wasn't that big either that we were working on, but hearing more and more about how badly teams scale actually. If you like make it a bit bigger, then you already have to have like middle management, you have to have uh, personalized, I don't know, IT guy as well. Yeah, so you will have so many people who are actually not making the game the bigger you get as a team. So I feel like it's always really hard not to scale up really quickly
Hmm.
because people want to make bigger and bigger things usually. So we are really trying to keep it down and not go like, oh, we're getting bigger. We are adding a few people probably in this team now for this project, but it's only going to be like a few ones. So for like last game, it was like 8 people. This one, oh yeah, we have like a game design intern as well now. This game might be like I don't want to go over like 12 because things get really
Right.
complicated from that. It's gonna. We also have everybody like doing things. Me and Oak are doing things full time, but I think others are gonna do it half like time as well, doing something else on the side as well. So that kind of works out for us as well. And yeah, for Death and Taxes, people were doing it on the side as well. Nobody was doing
Right.
it full time, almost nobody. So that helped with the revenue share thing. Of course, now we can actually pay sellers as well if people want to have it instead of revenue share. Um, but yeah, don't scale up too quickly. It is going to be so like hard. I'm like listening to some people who are scaling up, and it sounds like a horror story, to be honest. I'm like every time I'm like again like oh I'm seeing like how you shouldn't do it actually, because also you will get away from, if you want to be in the top of the actual company, then you will get away from the like decision process because you have like middle management and that as well. Yeah, I don't want to get out of like a smaller indie team.
Right.
This feels good.
It's a horror story I've seen happen to some some good friends of mine who started with small 2-3 man teams and now they have 30, 40 plus people to.
Oh boy. Oh
Yeah. And
no.
the other thing I find is you get farther and farther away from the actual game making,
Yes,
which it
exactly.
sounds like you're super. That's the part you love, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
love to get my hands dirty as well, you know, in it. Yeah.
so now going back to Death and Taxes, um, is there anything that I mean I always have this problem where I'm never fully satisfied with my work, you know, building it. But I'm curious if there's always this moment when I'm working on a game where I'm like, okay, yes, people are going to understand this and like it, and it's worth putting out in the world. And I'm curious what that moment was for you with Death and Taxes. I mean, I know it was a project you were very interested in, but it's a personal project. But I'm curious when you decided that other people were going to like really fall in love with it.
I don't really. Actually, the funny thing is that I didn't like the game for most like I liked the idea, but if I tested it, I didn't enjoy it actually. I was unable to enjoy the game while we were making it. Uh, this game had a very, very, very long pre-production stage, actually. It was almost like for 3 years, it was like in the back of my head doing some stuff on it, but kind of not getting there. I was still studying as well, so there was also and working, so working and studying and doing this on the side. Uh, it was very hard to do, especially when I had to like kind of lead a team of a few people already. So that kind of fell apart for at first. But then we decided I finished my school. I also did a thesis on the actual game. And then we started getting into full production. And that was actually when we put together the whole timeline of 9 months. Basically, we started doing it, and we were like, okay, we do it like 2 months already. let's say 7 more months and we are done. Whatever we have, we are gonna release. And we gave ourselves like a month to market as well, so something like that. So we just put it there, and actually we were able to add a few more things that we wanted to do. So it was like we added features actually. We got everything in we wanted to have, and we added some as well. So that was super nice. Uh, so there wasn't like a time when we were like, oh yeah, now it's gonna release, because we already had set the time
Right.
before, and we were like, yeah, it's gonna be in the state, because for this kind of game, because it's a story-based game, it's so hard to test it if the story is not ready.
Hmm.
It's like you don't know actually will it work that well. Like I feel like for our current project, it will be much easier to go like, oh, I'm gonna test it, see if people like it. If they don't, we're gonna try and iterate on it a bit more. But because it was such a like a big like just a vision of it, and everything had to fall into place and the story to actually see if it works, then yeah, we were hoping it would work, and it did. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, like story games, you definitely have to like put a bigger wish and a prayer on things. It's not like here's my multiplayer game that you can like here 5,000 people come play it and tell me what's wrong with it and then I'll work on it. It's either
Yeah.
like it's tough. That's one thing, especially because I feel like we might have talked about this on the show when Oak was on, but when you want to test a story based game, right? Like you're gonna burn out like the people closest to you. Like it's like, okay, please play test my game. Well, you only get one shot each on each of those people, right? Their feedback afterwards will be tainted, and so it it gets really really tough. Um,
Yeah, and it's not like a thing that you get go to a con either. Like
yeah,
people like if it's like a fun action-based game, you can just know right away if they're having fun with it. But with this, firstly, like testing takes a lot of time. We did some testing actually with people, of course, but it was more like you just watch them quietly for a long time, and then they're gonna talk to you about it, how they feel about it, and all of that. But I think the best testing that we actually had was because a lot of the game was designed to actually attract content creators,
hmm,
like YouTubers, streamers, and we wanted to make something because that was also one point why I knew that I want to make this game, because I knew a lot of content creators play these kind of wacky idea, small, weird, quirky indie games as well, where like you get to do decision like choices. So so seeing people play it while commenting it, like some of the content creators just tell everything they think, and they're like so good at
yeah,
it. It gives such a good like feedback as well, because we had quite a lot of videos made. We put a demo up really early as well. Putting demo up is so important for marketing the game as well. It did quite well on itch.io and also on Steam, because Steam demo page is a different page, and you get some
right,
visibility on that as well. So we tried to attract attention with the game and the name and the idea and the visuals, everything, colors. Uh, that was a lot of fun, and it worked out really well, and there was a lot of videos made out of it as well. So
did you do? Were you guys part of the Games Festival?
no, actually
It was
not.
just a
Yeah,
raw demo just up on Steam on its own.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
fascinating because I haven't heard much demo success from non-festival games yet. I mean, that's a whole nother
Mhm.
side of the business, talking about like how to get your demo out there. But I'm actually curious, how did you get your demo played? Was it just here it is and people came, or did you take some big steps to try and get people to notice it?
Well, mostly it was just the I was testing out all of my marketing psychology knowledge and the like kind of mm, graphic design stuff as well. So bringing visually attraction to the game, and there were a few tips, tricks that we used for that. Um, Oak also wrote a very good Reddit post that's called, I think, why you should have a demo for your game.
I need to read this.
And there's a lot of all of the numbers are there for the Steam and for itch.io and all of that. So you can look that up. And basically what I did for the visuals, we really put some time and thought into like cover images and the front of it all. Firstly, you have the hook of you are a Grim Reaper, something that you know already on an office job. Then it's like, what the hell? Well, like, okay, that's an interesting premise, right? Then the game's name is called Death and Taxes. It's a saying. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
know the saying. So that's with like usually if you see something that you have seen already, you have such a more higher chance of like clicking on it,
Mm-hmm.
actually. So basically, we jumped over the first time seeing and repeated exposure because you have already heard about Death and Taxes, probably somewhere. So then it
Right.
already like
So
links into your mind, and you will be like, "Oh, Death and Taxes. That oh, have I heard this somewhere before?" And then you like are interested in it. Also using like the skeleton with like very expressive face on it, and also using like bright colors. There's just red on the background, nothing like usually have like a lot of depth like in cover images, but this one is just blank red slate basically that brings more attention actually. And then there's also like death is written in like it's all like red, yellow, blue, and it's like death and taxes. It's such a like a depressing thing, but why is it uh colored in very like bright
mhm.
colors? So all of these things like make people think like what the hell is this, or like I have heard something about it. And kind of these kind of small tricks that you put into it like up the chance of people actually just clicking on it. At first we didn't reach out to content creators, but because the game actually did well on itch.io, some of them found it. But afterwards we were actually sending out keys to a lot of content creators, and some of our success was actually because of a lot of big content creators actually played it, like Markiplier,
Mhm, mhm.
Jacksepticeye. I actually like cried when Markiplier played it because I really like his videos on like different weird indie games as well. So I also knew what he would like as a content creator. And that was another trick that because it's like a game where you could make different decisions, then it's when you see a content creator play this game, then you will be like, ah, but I would have done
Right.
this so much differently. I would have done this or this. And a lot of the content creators, of course, do like a lot of, oh, I'm doing all the stupid stuff. And when you let them, then people will like laugh at it, but they're also like, ah, but I want to like properly play this game. I wonder what happens when I do this like in a better way. So giving the opportunity for them to have fun with it, do stupid stuff, and also make the people get more like interested about actually picking this up and trying it out. Yeah, so that was all basically.
I feel like we could get a whole lecture on how to properly market your game from
Yes,
you. Uh,
I really want to do that sometime as well.
the and what you said, it's absolutely true. It's kind of crucial these days to make a game that can be enjoyed more than once or enjoyed in different ways, because once somebody's put it on a let's play or on Twitch or whatever, it's like you want to make sure that your game is still there's still reason to get the game beyond, after they've seen the one playthrough. It's something it's really tough to do if you don't have that now. But yeah, I'm curious. So, I mean, as we're winding down, for people who want to follow you guys making more games going forward, where should they look and what should they pay attention to? And is there anything you'd like to get people to check out while they're here and paying attention now?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we are on Twitter, placeholder gameworks, and we have the new game in works now. You can also find Death and Taxes on Steam and on Switch, and very soon you will get it on Xbox and PlayStation, hopefully as well. And the new game that we are working on is called Broken Alliance. So if you like Heroes of Might and Magic or Age of Wonders or these kinds of games, then just check it out. And you can find it on, we don't have a Steam page up yet, but we do have a web page that's brokenalliancegame.com. And you can sign up for a newsletter there, and we have a small campaign currently that you can win a custom LED keyboard, gamer keyboard, if you sign up for our newsletter. So go there and check that out.
Very cool. Well, thank you very, very much for joining us today. It was a lot of fun talking to you about Death and Taxes, and I'm looking forward to more on Broken Alliance. Yeah, I guess that's it for now. Again, thank you for coming on. Goodbye, everybody in the chat. I've dropped the links to both Broken Alliance and Death and Taxes in the chat, so you guys can go check those out. And I guess I'll see you all some other time. Goodbye.